Well, we have another studio guest. It is, of course, the founder, I suppose, of ProCam, the co-director of ProCam. It is one of the Singh brothers, Vivek Singh. Vivek, very welcome on board. You must be absolutely delighted with the way this one has gone today so far. You know, most of these big ProCam races around India seem to go from strength to strength, but today has been extra special.
Couldn't agree more. First of all, thank you so much, Rob, Tim, for being here with us. I think, thanks to you both, we have one of the world's best commentary teams ever, and complemented by our friend Gautam Bhimani on the ground. So first of all, thank you so much. I think, you know, we don't say this enough, but thanks to you guys, the viewers in India have become so much more knowledgeable about running. They appreciate the telecast and they're enjoying the telecast. And that's what we need, a wider base to get people in. But yes, to answer your question, it's been a phenomenal day. In every respect, I remember the times when we used to have 15,000 people in the Majja run and 7,000 and 8,000 in the open 10K. This year we had 16,000 people in the open 10K. What's happening? You're seeing women, men, all shapes and sizes, all ages coming through and just going for it. And what can be better than that?
Vivek, your presence in the sport has been very giving. It's about other people. We've got a little clip here now we'd like you to see, which is a little bit more focused on you. You're not necessarily expecting this, but if you just look at the big screen in front of us. Oh, here you go. Here you go.
Behind you, actually, Vivek.
More like life size. Natural rhythm, I think that's what they call it. Natural rhythm. You missed your calling, Vivek, obviously.
Indian reality TV beckons, I believe.
Don't hold your breath. You pleased with that? Or
I am. I tell you,
like your form.
There's so much energy coming off that turf that I just couldn't help myself.
You're normally a fairly quiet, retiring man. Your brother tends to be the energy.
He was there too. He was very much there.
Brilliant, brilliant. No, but going back to the whole, what this event brings to the city, so much. Numbers are up this year quite significantly.
You know, it's not just the numbers are up this year. The impact that the event is having, the visible impact is that much more. We're seeing more money raised for charity. We're seeing more people come to the Open 10K. I was at the Open 10K finish line, and we had our amateurs coming in 32 and 33 minutes. What's happening? So it's the sheer impact that's happening all over. You know about the Cubbon Park water rejuvenation that the event supports, the Madiwala Lake. So it's gone beyond from being an international athletic event, which it is, to something that has a social impact, that has a sporting impact, and that has a giving impact. And that is very heartening when all these three facets of society can come together on a sporting platform. I think that is magic.
Vivek, you must be absolutely delighted with the way that the events are helping the top Indian athletes gradually claw their way up to world class. It might be a year or two yet, but they're actually absolutely making progress. But going back to your own experiences in the sport, can you think of one particular anecdote that has moved you, that is related to these events? Has anybody told you about how one of the events, for example, has changed their life?
So it's interesting you bring that up, Tim, because I clearly remember this. It was the 2016 Olympic Games in Rio de Janeiro, and I was watching it, and I was listening to Rob Walker on television. And we had, at that time, it was about the 30K mark. We had 2 Indians in the top 20. And I remember Rob saying on television that, look what's happening. We have 2 Indians in the top 20. What's happening in India? It's the marathons that are doing this. They finished 25th and 26th at the end. But it's fantastic. Yes, the base is growing, and thus the pyramid is growing, and they're getting more confident, they're getting stronger, there's more money coming into the sport, there's more attention coming. We all know that distance running was at the bottom of the food chain. Now look what's happening here. Distance runners are getting their time in the sun, and that makes all the difference.
Incredibly satisfying, I suppose, for you. What was it that made you and Anil go into running? Because you could have done triathlon, you could have done cycling. They're both growing, passionately popular sports. You know, cricket, of course, is virtually a religion here in India, but you two have brought running onto the map. And after cricket, I suppose, there was a vacuum, there was a space to be filled.
That's right.
You guys chose to try and fill that space with running, and you've done it incredibly well.
Yes.
Why was it running?
So Anil actually had the vision that every city needs a mass participation event to change the sociology of that city, to change the way people view sport. You know, when we started off the running revolution in India with the Mumbai Marathon in 2004, India was a spectator sport nation. Today we are seeing the entire nation, yes, it's a spectator sport nation, but it's moving from spectator sport to participative sport. And that is just something incredible to see this change happen in front of your eyes. People who never came out of their houses are walking today. People who are walking are running today. And that's fabulous. It's going across. The parents are telling their children, listen, you know, if for us academics was everything, it's no longer today. They're talking about being rounded human, they're talking about sporting interests, they're talking about cultural interests. So India is changing from a spectator sport nation to a participative sport nation.
And you know, one of the best examples of that, Tim and I were invited to go and join the Jaguars, who are a huge club here in Bengaluru, as you know. We ambled along, we were politely invited, and we thought, oh, great, okay, let's go along and see them having their team photo yesterday before the race today. And Tim's been involved in distance running 40 years, I've been involved 25 years. Neither of us have seen anything like it. Half of this club that has 900 members run with an app online, half of them were there for the photo. And it was amazing to see such a huge number of men and women of all ages, all shapes and sizes, so enthusiastic about the sport that we all love so much. There's absolutely no doubt that you guys are creating a huge legacy here. I've never seen anything like it. 450 men and women on a team photo.
Well said, Rob. And remember, these are what we call the working athletes. They got 9 to 5, 9 to 6, 9 to 7 jobs. Yet they're finding the time to go out there, train, set personal bests at races like this. I mean, wow, for me, they're stars.
I'll tell you what was astonishing was that so many of them were intrigued by and wanting to complete the Pro-Cam Slam, do the 4 big Pro-Cam races each year. Of course, this is just one of those 4. There's so many of them that when they go to some of the races, they charter a plane. There's 900 in this running group.
That's right.
And they charter their own plane. Now that, I don't know that has happened in the States, in Europe, anywhere. So that is a first.
Fantastic. I tell you, so it's God's grace. You know, it's entirely God's grace that this event happens, and we just get to play our part in it. And I think we're so blessed to have the kind of people that we have around us, the entire Pro-Cam team, our sponsors, our partners, the government of Karnataka, everybody. They've just been so wonderfully supportive, out of their comfort zones, out there supporting this event. And that's how you see the magic that you see on race day.
But Vivek, we want to carry on focusing up on you, because we understand you have a little anecdote about being something to do with an elevator here in Bengaluru. Would you like to enlighten us?
So yes, you know, Rob mentioned about the impact and the growing impact. So I was about 45 kilometers outside Bengaluru, and I was going to meet some senior teachers of the Art of Living. It's a wonderful spiritual organization. And in the elevator with me was this lady. She was middle to elderly, white hair, full salwar kameez, that's the Indian dress, carrying a few bags of groceries with her. And I had with me the goodie bags with all the little things that I was going to present to these people I was going to meet. And she looks at me, and I just kind of greeted her, and she says, well, 10K, huh? So I was a little taken aback. I was 45 kilometers outside Bangalore. It was not on my mind at that minute. She says, well, 10K, huh? So I said, yes, ma'am, World 10K. She says, we too, all 4. Meaning, all 4 members of her family were coming to race on Sunday. I mean, that's what's happened, you know? Common people, working people have become athletes, and they're treating themselves as such. Their diet, their nutrition, their rest, everything is being changed. If it's a 10K, 2 to 3 months. If it's a half marathon, 3 to 4 months. If it's a full marathon, 5 to 6 months. And that's wonderful. That's impact. If you see this here, this is the first time the Majja Run is a fixed predetermined distance of 5 kilometers. When you finish the Majja Run, you get a timing certificate, you get a medal, you get a chip which records everything. So we want to start now, even in the Majja Run, you are, you know, we're going to respect the fact that you're out there. We're going to respect that distance. We're going to respect your commitment. And that's how people get enthused to travel up.
It's kind of ironic, I suppose, that it's the most accessible of sports. You don't need to book a facility or have complicated equipment, and yet it does take intense effort.
Intense effort. And it gives you the little flexibility. When you want to run, you can decide when you want to run. You want to run alone, you want to run in a group, all those options are open to you today. People have got so much more knowledgeable. They want to wear the right shoe, they want to wear the right clothes, they want to wear the right glasses. That's lovely, that's evolution.
You and your brother are a real kind of tour de force between the two of you. Since that first event in 2004, could you really have believed that this whole concept would have caught on with the Indian populace in the manner in which it has done? Because the progress you've made in that 15 years has been extraordinary.
First of all, thank you for that, Rob. Second, no, we couldn't imagine. But I will say one thing. We never treated it as an event. Not in year one, not today. For us, it was a movement, or it was the seeds of a movement from day one. We had 5 pillars laid down, whether it's charity, communal harmony, health and fitness, pride and prestige to the host city, and a boon to Indian athletics. We had these 5 pillars laid down, and we've just built upon these 5 pillars. The movement was there, the seeds of the movement was there from day one. And that is wonderful. I tell my team, when we do our team huddles, I tell my team, this is not an event. Don't think you're coming up for an event. Don't think you can show up and you think you'll deliver an event. This is the living, breathing manifestation of what we believe in, of our spirit. So we never treat it as an event. We treat it as a movement. But what a movement. That's God's grace.
So, Rob, I mean, you've been to many of these races, and you've got a good experience of these. How would you rate this one? I know that Vivek, we know from Vivek what Vivek's been saying, that it's bigger and better than ever before, but the quality of the racing by the elite?
I think it was really intriguing that we had 2 contrasting tactics. We had a very, very slow women's race, but it was a great illustration. It doesn't always have to be about fast times, because you and I have followed distance running for a long time. We had no idea until deep inside the last kilometre who was going to win. And what an amazing title defence by Agnes Tirop, a race run in an entirely different way. That she produced the course record here, 31:19 last year. That was never on the cards after the first couple of K. And as far as the men's race is concerned, how intriguing. We had the joint 8th fastest of all time, Matthew Kimeli from Kenya, and yet the Kenyan distance runners will have further great days to come. Not a single Kenyan in the top 3. Ethiopia 1, Ethiopia 3, Uganda 2. And the 2 men who led the charge, 20 and 22 years old respectively. So we've seen a glimpse of the next generation of greatness, and we've seen a little storyline emerging. It's not always about the Kenyans, and it wasn't today.
It's been a glorious day, Vivek, but just looking forwards, can this race grow further? Is there capacity yet, or is the race full, so to speak?
So the way it works is, no, it's not full. The 10K can go, we can accommodate more. And we see that Major runners are moving up. But it's never been about numbers, Tim, because as you know, we close registrations weeks in advance. And we put a deadline,
but
and that's it.
You create a model, a template here, which is getting great exposure, and you're going to create more demand. So I know it's not about numbers necessarily, but that will be a product.
Yes, it's never been about numbers. Yes, we'd like to see the 10K numbers grow even more, and but it is about the impact of the race on all fronts. Look at the coverage we've got for this event in the week that's built up and during the launch. Fabulous coverage. That's great, because then people are talking about it. People are noticing it. Look at the social impact this race is going to have. We're going to raise a record amount of money for charity this year. That's great. That means more people are connected to it, and there's more of an offtake from the event. You know what's amazing for me is when I come out and I see senior government officers, people who are very staid, very conservative, from the bureaucracy or from the electorate, coming and running and dancing on the streets. Then I'm saying there is a mindset change that's happening. We're going to get a more sporting mindset. And if something like that can happen in that direction, then that is a legacy I'd like to leave behind. That the nation is moving closer and closer to becoming more and more of a participative sport nation. And the mindset of our people, especially those in positions of power, is changing to a more sporting mindset.
I suppose, Vivek, there is a really good sort of focusing on 5 individuals whose lives have been changed by running. They have focused upon the program Grand Slam, these big races, and different stories altogether. You know, some recovering from a broken marriage, others finding a way of picking up their life after they've donated so much of their time to their kids and giving themselves a bit of me time, as they call it. And I suppose that's what's wonderful about it. So today, almost 25,000 people have entered the different races. That's 25,000 individual stories and reasons, motivations.
True. But what's most heartening is, and as you saw in the Star Sports Believer, was 4 out of the 5 were women. Today, the women are taking to running. It's so empowering. The women are taking to running, and I tell you, that's changing the lives of this country, because she decides what goes on the table. So suddenly the family, whether they like it or not, is more conscious of what they're eating, what the carbohydrates are, what the fats are, what the proteins are. It was never a discussion really in the past. And that is, to me, so heartening, is when women take to running and they become role models for others. So there are young girls watching television, going through school and saying, hey, that's my mother, or that's my mother's friend, or that's my aunt, or whatever. It just changes the perception. And India has had various kinds of perceptions to deal with. But when they see these people as role models, the youngsters growing up in conservative families, in smaller towns, are seeing this and saying, you know what? It's okay. I can go out there and I can play with the boys. I can get dirty. I can get whatever. It's like anybody else. That's empowering.
Well, we had an in-depth conversation with each of the 5 Star Sports Believe nominees on Saturday before we watched their films, which were really moving. And one of them, I can't remember which of the 4 women now told me, but one of them said, it's a well-established fact amongst active families. When the man's involved in sport, that's great, and the rest of the family applaud. It's very much regarded as his pastime. When the woman of the house gets involved, everybody in the house is involved, because it does incorporate nutrition, and it's changing subtly and ever so gradually. It's changing the perception of the woman within the family and within the home.
Absolutely. This is what I mean. Women as role models. The whole generation that's growing up watching them is going to have a different perspective, is going to stand up and want to be counted, and not just take it, hey, you know, you're a woman. No, is this so what? That's so wonderful. That's empowerment.
Well, we know that, I mean, there are plenty of statistics to show that when one person in a household starts running and adjusts their diet, it affects the whole household. So if there's 25,000 people running today, or around that sort of number, probably 100,000 people's lives have been changed over recent months.
Absolutely.
That aside, Vivek, where would you like to be in, say, 10 years' time from now? Where do you see your company and running in India being in a decade from now?
So we are leaders in today. Participative sport is largely, in terms of its organized sector, is running. But there's so many different facets to participative sport. And ProCam does have a leadership position in that. And we'd like to, you know, expand that base, whether it's cycling, whether it's swimming, whether it's triathlon, whether it's duathlons, whether it's just people getting out there to play. The country should be playing more. The country should be watching sports more. The country should be playing sports more. And I think that is a great barometer of health for the country. When I say health, I just don't mean personal health. I mean mental health, physical health. We know that distance running has a positive effect on the mind. We know that your capacity to deal with issues, your capacity to solve issues enhances when you're out there distance running. And that's wonderful. We know that as a society, the fitter you are, the more productive you are. The happier you are, the more productive you are. And that's what sport does, and especially distance running. It's such, like you said, you know, it's a sport that anyone can take up. Do it on your own, do it with a group, do it with your family, do it. It changes you as a person. It changes your approach to life.